I'm CK. Tonight we've got a build from a company I haven't worked with before. This is Black Noise out of France. This is their GOMA, the generator offset mixer attenuverter, which is the idea behind GOMA was to make an improved version of the classic 3 attenuator Attenuverter modules. We wanted to design high-end but small module so it could fit in any case. We wanted it to be ergonomic and easy to use despite its size. We also wanted to pack as much features as possible to make it a Swiss knife module. So we'll put it together, see how it attenuverts, and I hope you enjoy the video. GOMA, build instruction QR code. I actually just went to their website and got the build guide. Black Noise out of Burgundy, France. I picked this up from thonk.co.uk, as I do many of my modules. Let's see what we have. I think it's mostly surface mount pre-installed, but we'll see what else we're going to be putting together. Get rid of the bubble wrap. Hate bubble wrap, but that's okay. Power cable. Here we've got a couple of LEDs, diode, power connector, pin header that looks like a jumper. And we've got some more LEDs, switch cap. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I counted right, counting is hard. Pots and jacks and knobs, pretty basic knobs. They're not really too fancy. They're just press-ons. Nothing too interesting about them. Here we have the front panel. Take a look at it. GOMA 1. In, out. So this is probably a switch for 0 to 5 volts or for 10 volts. That's what those are. And then we've got attenuation, and I'll figure out what that is later. Oh, so so these are switches and these are the pots. And then we've got a couple of more. This is where the ins and outs are. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 pots, and we should have 6 switches and 1, 2, 3 pots. And let me see what this says. I'm taking a look to see. I don't think there's any particular calibration or anything like that. And we've got the board itself, which has, as I thought, got all the surface mount components pre-installed. A bunch of, are these, they're not, they're all, they're the same thing repeated. Actually, they're not. That's interesting. This chip, these are all what, 2212s. This is an AK2RU, and I would have thought they would have alternated, but they don't. These are all, these 1, 2, 3, 4 are the same. This one is different. That's interesting. So this is version 1. I think they have a version 2. I think I saw on their website they have a version 2, but this is the one that was on Thonk, so it's the one I got. And we've got Welcome to Black Noise Family. I think maybe I have done something from them before. So there's their sticker. Let me look on my sticker wall, see if I've got... Yeah, I do. I have done one of these before. I've done one from them before. Do you remember what it is? Anybody remember what it was? Let me take a look. Go to my website, my YouTube channel, and search for Black Noise And, that's interesting. I've got their sticker on my wall, but I can't find the module. Did I build it before I was doing YouTube? Maybe. I don't know. But doesn't matter. I will go ahead and get the soldering iron heated up, and we'll put this fella together. Looks like it'll be a pretty quick build. Get a parts tray to dump the bags into. First we're going to do the Zener diode and the headers. So, and I believe the one header, this, and the wire here, let me show you here in a second. Come on. This and this, I believe, well, no, they say these are daisy chainable, but I'll have to look in the user guide for that because I don't see how it's going. Where did the diode go? Is that did I open the wrong bag? No. Oh, it didn't come out of the bag. That's why. Silly thing, didn't want to play. Now let's look around on here. I wonder why they didn't install this diode. Maybe because it wasn't part of the put everything down with paste and put it through the oven. Now the black line is there, and there's a black line here on the circuit board where it goes, so that's nice and easy. Then we've got, what is he doing here? Okay, we've got this header goes here, like so, but this, oh, I see, I didn't even notice that. Gosh, I'm such a silly person. If you look here, you'll see this header has got bent legs because it's not going to be through hole, it's going to be going on these solder pads, like a surface mount type component. So I'm going to do that first before well, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Zener diode back off, even though they want it on first, because I want this to lay flat. And with the Zener in there, the leads were causing the circuit board to flop around a little bit, and I want this to not flop. So I'm not going to go with my super thin solder or anything on this. This is probably the simplest surface mount soldering you're going to do. I'll just use my regular solder, and I won't use any flux or anything like that to put it down. So I put a little solder on that one pad. Now I'm going to position this over here like so. Make sure I'm all lined up on the other pads. And I'm going to heat the one where I put the little pool of solder, and it's sunk in. Let it cool off, and now that's on there, so it's not going to go anywhere while I solder the rest. And again, it's probably the easiest surface mount type soldering you're ever going to do. Just got to make sure it flows under if you can. And the other thing you have to do is you have to watch out for the other surface mount components that are already on the board, so you don't tap them with your soldering iron, dislodge them, or maybe damage them. You also want to make sure you don't fill in these holes for the components you're going to put on the other side. And that is that. I'm going to double check my connections here. Those look good. Those look good. Now I'll put this diode back on, making sure again that I get the stripe in the right place since I took it back off. You don't want to fool yourself. I have made a fool of myself many times. Don't want to do it on this particular time. And what would they like us to do next? Clean the PCB. No, I'm not going to clean off the flux. I don't care. And we've got 2 dual LEDs. But we're going to put the potentiometers on here in a minute, but we've also got 3 dual LEDs, which, let me get my LED buddy out. Where is it? There it is. And we'll take a look at them. They're different, they're 2 color. So when we put them on my LED buddy this way, it's red, 1.9 volts. When I do it to reverse the voltage, it's green. So they're 2-way LEDs. Put the volt positive on the short leg and it goes green, positive on the long leg and it goes red. This is a very handy device. You should get one from Wada, jamco.com. It's called an LED buddy and very, very handy. I've got a video showing how to put it together on the channel. Now we'll forget where they all go. There they go. Short lead into the square component hole. Now I'll set the potentiometers in. They are all the same, correct? They should be. Should be all 100Ks. B104, so that's 100K, because it's 10 with 4 more zeros, so that's 100. Potentiometers are on. Now we've got some white LEDs. Set this down and we'll get all the white LEDs, even though I think I'll dump these into a different bag. I mean, parts bin. These are to show which way the switches are. Attenuation, inverting, or 5 or 10 volt. So let's take a look at one of these. Get the LED buddy out again, because I just love it to death. Oh, that's very bright. 2.9 volts takes a lot of voltage. And again, short leg in the square position. Yeah, see, I would have done this differently. He wants us to put the jacks on now and then the switches. I'm actually going to go out of order here. I'm taking these white LEDs back out and I am going to do the switches next because I don't want these LEDs in the way or bouncing around while I'm doing the switches, because the switches are a little more tricky than anything else on the board. Same with the jacks. If I put the jacks on now and then put the switches on, the jacks are going to fall out. I know. I mean, heck, I've got 120 eurorack builds on this channel, so I think I know a little something or other about building these modules. So what we want to do now is identify the round mark on the switch, which is right there. It's got a G on these, and that will do that to place things correctly. But first we're going to put all the push button caps on. Oh, they went on very smoothly. Often I have to press really hard to get the button caps on the button shafts, but these are going on very nicely. Okay, now we're going to put the switches, and we're going to pay attention to the little G mark as we looked at before, and you can see on this picture right here that the top two have the G going down, the next four have the G going up. So you want to make sure that you get that right. All the jacks are on, all the switches are on. Let's see what we would like to do now. Now, we'll put the faceplate on, which is a wise thing to do. Should go on pretty straightforward. Yeah, went on pretty well. Now these potentiometers are really in there tightly, which is nice, because we can put jack on there. I'll put jacks on all of them. Get them all. I'm not doing them gorilla tight yet. I'm just doing them snugly to keep the board together. I'm going to test these switches for operation. Make sure they're not rubbing or anything like that. I could put the panel nuts on there for these guys too. May as well. Doesn't hurt anything. Now what he would like us to do is just make sure the switches are going to be in place without any problems, so he recommends that we solder one pin of each, and I will do that. Now, of course, as I said, be very careful, because as you can see, there are resistors, surface mount resistors and capacitors right next to the pins on these switches. Now that we've got one pin tacked on each of the switches, we'll make sure they all operate. And he would like us to do all the jacks now. Now I'm going to be going through and I'm going to solder all the jacks. I'm going to solder the LEDs, the white ones which are down the side, and I'm going to, as when I do that, well, I'll come back live after I do the jacks. And that's all the jacks, and they look good. Now the next thing we're going to do, again, we're going to do all these white LEDs, and we're going to want to make sure that they're straight up and down and facing through the little positions they're supposed to be in. I just had this in there. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the solder on there, and then I'm going to heat it back up again and move it to align it. Let it cool. Now we'll do the dual LEDs, even though, what's going on here? My battery is looking like it's dead on the overhead camera. That's a brand new battery, for crying out loud. So same drill, we'll do one of the leads, then we'll warm that one up a little bit and adjust the LED. Now I can't really see the front panel position, so I'm going to go with how perpendicular the legs look. Now we've got the switch legs, rest of them, the other 5, and the pot legs. And I'm going to turn off the cameras to finish up this soldering because, again, my battery's almost dead. And I don't really understand that. This is a brand new battery. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to see me solder 20 some odd more connections. It'll just be kind of like, again, the key thing being here is you do not want to be sloppy with your soldering iron because there are so many little resistors and capacitors on the board already that you've got to be very careful. Keep your soldering iron pretty much upright. So like I said, I'm going to turn the cameras off and we'll come back when this is all soldered up. So all this soldering is done, and while we were doing the switches I of course did the pots. And because there's so many tiny connections here, I'm going to go through with my little piece of paper and make sure I've gotten everything and there's no bridging or shorting of any of the componentry. And more importantly, everything is actually soldered. And it is. Good enough. Solder the pots, clean the PCB. I'm not going to clean the PCB. You should probably clean the flux off, but I don't care because I'm not going to be probably using that this much. And we're going to check our module is what he'd like us to do. Go into continuity mode where it'll beep, and we'll test the 12 and 12 positive and 12 negative, and there's no shorts there. Let's go to ground. Those are right, those are right, that should ring. These are not. So we should be good. Okay, no shorts. And now we'll put the knobs on, actually before we put the knobs on, I will go back with my little 10 millimeter socket and tighten these down for final. Get my little jack wrench and tighten all these down for final. This is a very handy tool for these slotted jack panel nuts. You can get this from Thonk and a couple of other places, but I know you can get it from Thonk. Turn these all counterclockwise, get our knob and put it kind of like that. Make sure it still rotates after you put the knob on. Try and get this other one kind of in the same. See, that's not in the same location. This is the part I'm really bad about, getting all the index marks lined up. That rotates freely. That's a little off. Should be good. That rotates freely. And we'll take our power cord, and there's a black stripe there. And way the power will go on. And now we're ready to put it in the rack and see how she works. Back in a bit. Oops. So the top camera went off while I was talking about that, but anyway, I think there wasn't too much to see there except tightening stuff and putting the knobs on. So we'll put it in the rack and see what up. Alright, we're in the rack and powered up, unfortunately, because I powered up and did my whole spiel about this and that, and my water heater came on and blasted everything away. So it's already up and running. I've got an LFO, we've got the scope up. Let me bring the scope up if I haven't already. Got the scope up, I've got an LFO going into input 1, and we're at 5 volts, even though if we flip it over to 10 volts it doesn't make much difference because this is a 5 volt signal. Oh, by the way, it's pulling 39 milliamps on the negative, 12 milliamps on the positive, which is not bad. I didn't look at peak. Oh, I guess startup was like 62 milliamps when it started. Okay. So that's interesting. And if you look at the scope right now, we've got the... I'll turn this up a little bit. We've got a triangle wave going on. And you can see it's completely matched up. Let's go ahead and attenuate it. The top yellow line is the original signal. The bottom magenta line is the process signal. So when I start attenuating it, it goes right away like you'd expect. So that's that. I'm going to put this in the middle now, and we're going to go to the polarization setting. So if I go all the way counterclockwise, you can see it's the exact opposite of the input signal. If I go fully clockwise, it matches the input signal. And it attenuates along the way, so you can have an attenuated reversed signal. So you could theoretically just stay in the the polarization side and do your attenuation, and then do a reversal. And if we go ahead and put something more complex as the input, let's see, we'll go into this oscillator. And now if I go ahead and flip it around again, that would probably... Let me do something real quick. I may speed up the cameras to get this sorted out, because what I want to do is see if I can get the original signal also and combined. So just hold on 1 second, you won't even notice. Okay, now I'm back. So what I did was, now I've got the original signal going into the mixer and the output signal going into the mixer. So you can see what could be interesting here is if I take the sound back up, and now that's completely matched. That's the side where the input signal is the same as the output signal. Now if I go the other way, we're going to be cross-phasing them. So you can hear a little more harmonics in there. And then I can make it very thin there by having it almost cancel, the waves almost cancel each other out. So that's something interesting you could try. Let me go with a different waveform. I'm going to go with a sine wave. pretty interesting. But that's basically what it does. We can go to any channel, of course. I'm going to pull the original signal back out of this. And now we're just hearing the output signal. So as you can see, it's doing what you would expect. Attenuating. Attenuating and flipping. So pretty much that's it. It's nice. 4U unit, as you saw, it wasn't very difficult to put together. And lots of little things you could do with it. He has, oops, gosh darn it, I hit the wrong. I hit a back on my, did I just lose it? Ah. Okay, so we've got, he's got a couple of patches for polarizer, attenuator, mixer, which you can do. I'm not putting multiple things in there, doing offsets, and a couple of other things. And then he's got that little green wire we had, allows you to daisy chain multiples of these if you want. But again, it's pretty straightforward. It sounds good. It certainly it reproduces, oops, wrong note. We're not losing any fidelity. So a handy little unit, and again with the surface mount already pre-installed, there's not a lot for you to do except put the knob switches and so on. You have to be a little careful with it because there's so much surface mount near the places where you have to solder the pots and the jacks and the LEDs in. Just be careful and take your time. And I hope you enjoyed the video.